I'm a dad doing the dishes. So it is snowing again. Absolute, utter madness. I do not understand how winter has been lingering this long. I was born in Canada, and I remember what it was like 30, 35 years ago. Like, the snow was ridiculous. Like, it was a lot. But, we've had a good 10 years or so of it not being like this. And let me tell you, it is being a chore to to just get back into the feels of it. Now, granted, the kiddos love it, and God bless them. I'm very happy for them. They're just enjoying watching the snow, learning about the different activities you can do, and there has been just so many opportunities to just venture out. Even into a parking lot where there's a pile of snow and you can pull the sled. It is, as a kid, you just don't realize how difficult it is as a parent to do all that snow stuff. But let me tell you, it's fun. It's fun to watch them. As much as it is a pain as an adult, it's super fun to watch them grow and to learn about life, and just to catch them tasting the snow. That's another thing I'll never get over, is just watching their little expressions, their faces. There's some neighborhood kids that I kind of just try to reach out to and connect with. And over the past few years, we'll take them out mini tobogganing or sledding or whatever however you want to call it. Sometimes I'm the power puller, so I'll have a couple of the kids strapped into the sled, and I'm just pulling. And if you want to get a good old workout, that's the way to do it. So yeah, it's been pretty enjoyable overall. However, it's getting a bit long now, and for it to be snowing mid-March, that's normal for me myself growing up. I don't know if anyone else was like that, or if you experienced life, in your own tundra that way. But for me, it was fairly normal. I just haven't experienced it in 20 years, so it kind of gets at you. So yeah, and with that, I have stumbled upon my first, maybe second real cold of the winter, and it's been a bit of a doozy. I got everything coming at me. I'm having a little break right now. Have had some time off, and it's always amazing how your body just kicks in with adrenaline for so long, and then you get time to rest, and instead of like you detoxing, enjoying the things you want to enjoy, nope, you get sicker than you've ever been. And it's been like that for myself. I'm killing the fisherman's friend, and I'll go through some products that have really helped me. I'll go through some foods probably tomorrow if I do another stream. But yeah, it's been very, very saddening, because you take the time off, you want to enjoy the time, and you get sick. But I think there's a blessing in disguise there. In the Bible it says, he leadeth us beside the still waters, but he maketh us to lie down in green pastures. And I think a lot of the times we don't know how to rest properly, and God has this way of using sickness or hardships to kind of slow us down and allow us to just breathe. I'm reminded of what a shepherd does to a sheep that doesn't listen. And I think that's why we're called sheep too, because we don't listen. And death, of course, is much worse than any other, type of pain that you could experience on the planet. So bear that in mind as I tell you the story. So from what I understand, sheep, because of their lack of listening, shepherds for thousands of years will, if they find one stubborn sheep in particular, that could cause chaos to the entire set of sheep. So what ends up happening is that if that sheep doesn't want to listen, if they're just acting a fool, the shepherd will break its leg. Now that sounds inhumane and horrible by our standards, but hear me out. So the shepherd does this for two reasons. One, because if that sheep decides to go rogue and just runs away, a lot of sheep are going to follow it. So you're saving 100 sheep by doing this. 101 sheep, you're saving 100 sheep by doing this. And the second thing is that when that sheep, that stiff neck, that won't listen, when that sheep has its legs broken, the shepherd actually takes the sheep and will pick it up and hold it the whole time. It'll set the leg properly, make sure that it heals, make sure that everything's going well, but it will make sure that that sheep is always with him, because the sheep is immobilized. It can't walk, it can't follow after anyone. It just is completely dependent on the shepherd. And I think this is huge. I think this is, hey, nice to see you too, Barkman. I think this is huge because we as human beings have this, I think that's why we're related to a sheep, because we as human beings have this ability, like on social media, to just cause people to act a fool, and then cause people to go off the deep end. So sometimes we need things to just slow us down so that we can make better decisions. Anyway, so if that sheep has its legs broken by the shepherd picks it up, and the shepherd is speaking, and that sheep can actually hear the shepherd's voice, because the sheep is being carried by the shepherd, like in those pictures, over the shoulder, and the shepherd is holding their legs. And at night, the sheep has no way to keep warm, so it has to stay by the fire, has to hear the shepherd's voice, listen to the shepherd, wake with the shepherd, and understands where the shepherd is at all times. So it's this beautiful analogy, I think, that when we are sick, when we are broken, when we need a healer, God's there to heal us and walk with us in our broken state, in our broken situation. A lot of us look at brokenness as a weakness or a problem, when in reality, a lot of the times it can be very introspective and can help us to gain better knowledge. And so most of the time, the shepherds would say, as they talk to these shepherds, they would say that when the sheep had their leg sadly broken by the shepherd, they were way better. They didn't, run off anymore. They became model sheep. And so, I take this sickness and this situation, I take a lot of them in stride, a lot of these hardships that I go through, because I'm like, okay, what can I actually learn in this situation? Now, sometimes, again, a sheep has its legs broken, but sometimes it acts a fool, and its leg breaks because, well, it did something stupid, or because, sheep are very clumsy. So it could be that. That's another reason why the sheep had its legs broken. It's because it just, I don't know, it just jumped off the side of a hill or something. So there's many reasons why, we may end up having to lay down and have deep retrospect in our lives. But, when it does happen, I think we have to make the most of it. Turn the water on here. Hopefully the audio continues on a good pace here. So I think that's the one thing that I've learned through this sickness that I'm facing, is to, just really let God lead in the situation. Now, I will share with you my my 3 non-food items that really help me out. Well, I guess non-food is, first of all, Fisherman's Friend. Now, Fisherman's Friend is fantastic for multiple reasons. One is just the menthol level, this white packet in particular. The menthol level is not too bad. You can still feel it. And what I do for the second reason is that I get the ones with no sugar, so I stick it under my tongue. Now, I suggest you breaking it in half if you do this. And I haven't coughed in the middle of the night in 15 years. Because what I do is just tuck it under my tongue. And when I tuck it under my tongue, I don't feel it anymore. And throughout the night, as I'm building up that saliva, all of a sudden I'm sucking down the menthol. And instead of having that coughing episode because of a dry breath or a saliva that's kind of, coating the throat, instead I'm getting the menthol in there, which is easing and calming the throat. So Fisherman's Friend has been the greatest gift to me ever. Isn't that an ad? Hopefully you're getting paid. No, not yet, not yet. The second is oil of oregano. You can get some super potent stuff. This one is not as potent. It is what is it again? It only is at a 75 to 85%. I've had ones that are 100 and something percent proof, which is hilarious because you'd think it only goes up to 100. But I take about 5 or 6 drops of the oil of oregano, depending on the potency. Drop it in some OJ, and I felt that it heals me up pretty good. And last but not least, ginger honey packets on the go. Always keep a bag on me, as I'm rolling around the city doing whatever, because these guys have saved me a number of times. So those are the 3 things that are helping me. If I'm still sick tomorrow, I'll go through some of the foods that I have that help me and the kiddos to get over this, and my wifey. But since she's preggo, she's limited by a lot of stuff. I guess we're crunchies because we're not taking too much stuff and not allowing our bodies to be exposed to too many things. And I don't want to go down a road where you're thinking that science is a bad thing at all by any stretch of the imagination. Science is just studying and testing the world, right? But I do believe that over time there have been some things that are definitely monopolized, and kind of things get pushed through because there's a bottom dollar, like in every crime show you watch, in every situation, even what we're seeing with the Epstein stuff, it's follow the money, right? And again, not to go down a road of conspiracy theory, but you have to watch what you put into your body. And my wife is doing that while she's preggo. So yeah, that's so far my gripes of the day is being sick again, just feeling absolutely depleted, and on the flip side, having that next winter storm come through, which I was not thrilled about. I was not anticipating at all. My wife told me yesterday, she's like, we're getting snow. I'm like, again? And again, I grew up in Canada. 30 years ago, this was the norm. We had 6, 7, 8 foot, piles of snow, hills of snow, because people were shoveling it, nowhere to put the snow, kind of like, Brampton styles or Timmins styles right now. It used to be like that in Toronto. I don't know if people can believe that or not. We've had a major climate change, due to whatever it is, global warming, polar shifts, whatever. But from the time that I was born to now, aside from this winter, it's been pretty mild to say the least. So that's that. I really, I'm changing the format up a bit. I have to do the dishes. I have to stretch every day. I have to work out. So thought to myself, if I'm going to be doing this, I might as well do this for somebody, because I love chatting, and usually I'd be on the phone counseling someone or talking them through life. So, we'll see how this goes. Maybe I'll be in my 80s doing dishes. And I love that thought of hopefully connecting with people for the rest of my life. But anyway, so the thought that came to mind today was I've dealt with so many gentlemen who are in broken relationships, some Christian, some non-Christian, and it really hurts my heart how relationships can unfold. And I think it's even at the inception, whether you're a person who's around a lot of others who are in relationships, or who are maybe like mentoring or counseling, whatever it might be, we gotta speak up. These relationships, that if we see something wrong, we gotta speak up. It may hurt the friendship, but it's better than having people have multiple kids and a broken life situation. Now, for those who are already in that broken situation, all the power to you. We have to, as men, as family, as people, we gotta work together to try to stop that, and stop the pain and hurt the pain that you're going through. But even more so at the beginning, the preliminary level, we have to be able to speak up and just not let these relationships start up that could be detrimental and have long-lasting effects on kiddos. Now, I think that's something that I've screwed up at least once or twice in my life, but I've taken a deep initiative to do that. And I think I've saved, by God's grace, a handful of relationships that they just looked bad. They just weren't going anywhere. Now, if God wants you to plow through with a relationship, who am I to stop you? But I have to know within my own conscience that if I see relationships that's not going well, I got to speak up. And I'd implore any of you who do care about that person, before it gets to engagement, before it gets to the wedding night, talk to these people. I've done it multiple times, and the times that it did work out, I'm very, very thankful for. And the times that it didn't work, at least I know I can sleep at night because I really put in the effort to try to help them out. I think if they do get married and they're struggling, you have to constantly remind the partners themselves that they need to spend more time with each other. Because I think that's one of the number reasons why I see marriages get into rocky situations is they get busy with work, they get busy with kids, they get busy with hobbies, they let a slight become intolerable, too big, too much of an emphasis. And it just breaks my heart to see that happen because, at some point these people most likely loved each other quite deeply, and, some things are drifting apart. If it's in a situation before you have kids, you gotta like pump the brakes. Yeah, you have work and all that, but if you really care about this person, if you're now married to them, you gotta make multiple date nights a week. Because trust me, if you have kids, you'd be blessed to get a date night once a month or once a year, depending on your family situation. And so I think a lot of the time it's sad that people just don't want to fight, or they don't see their relationships in the right way. They see them as third or fourth down the road, or down the list in their lives. When in reality, again, from a non-Christian perspective, that person, your spouse, should probably be the most important person in your life. Or number one, and as a Christian, as a human being, they're number one. But your relationship with God, it supersedes that because it allows you to become closer to your spouse. So if that's the case, and you know someone or you are in a relationship like that, I just want to say, let's pump the brakes, spend some time with each other, maybe read Gary Chapman's The 5 Love Languages, see if you're missing each other. This is another thing. You may be trying to love that person, and you may be thinking that, buying them flowers and showing up at their workplace and these grand romantic gestures are where it's at. But if they're, for instance, an acts of service person, they just want you to take out the trash. If they're a quality time person, they just want you to turn off the TV and just hang out with them. So I think we have to spend time just getting to know our partners. Now, the big irks is when it comes to kids, because kids and finances are the killers. People end up investing their time into their kids. Maybe they see inadequacies that they had as children. So that's why if you're in a relationship or you're married and you don't have kids yet, go to counseling, or get an older mentor couple. Talk to people in your life that, you trust, that you see, they've been married for 30, 40 years. They've got things going that can actually call you out on stuff. Because it is difficult, right? When people are far away from you, or you don't see the same ideologies, or you can't like line up world visions, it's not going to work, right? It's like trying to think of a non-sports analogy here. If you want to become a doctor one day, you're not going to be hanging out at the law office, right? Unless you do want to make sure you avoid legal complications. Because you're going to want to know what the doctor does, how they do it. In sports, as much as, a professional hockey player is an amazing athlete, I'm sorry, not a lot of stuff is going to translate to basketball outside of the, defense and offense and the way they move, right? Like back and forth, because in football, you're usually only playing one side of the ball. In baseball, you are playing dual, but it's a very different dynamic. It's a lot slower. So the same thing in marriage, or in relationships in general, is you got to find that person. You got to fight for those people who are actually going to speak truth and life into you. And so when you do end up, and if you do end up having kids, it's putting that spouse first. But I think even before you have kids, if you do, or if you're going to get married, it's going to counsel. It's going to these people, and you say, hey, you know what? You've been married a long time. I love the way you interact with your spouse, because your spouse should be the number one person on the planet. And even more so, you hope that they're your best friend, because when they are not your best friend, when you can't go to them about just about everything in life, you're going to start shifting your intimacy. And when you shift your intimacy, ooh-wee, that's the beginning of cheating right off the bat, you know? So I've caught myself a few times talking, you know, over the years to a female about a situation, and I caught myself, and I'm like, no, I should be going to my counselor, another one of my guy friends, you know, or my wife about this. Now, if it's a turmoilous situation between me and her, maybe I need to seek outside counsel, or like another married friend or couple or someone like that. But most of the time, I'm going to my wife first. And to a lot of the world, that sounds weird and crazy. But I'm telling you, most of the people who I have seen be married to for a long, 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 long time, you know, that is how they roll. They have very strict boundaries. They are very concerned about putting their spouse first. And I'm talking mainly to men here, but let's talk to both. And they do not let their children become the center of their world. You know, and I've just been seeing that so often over the years, and just talking to people, and it comes from hurt. So I'm gonna speak generically here. You can have a spouse that was in a very abusive home, and now all they want to do is treat their kids to every luxury on the planet. That's not a good idea. The kids need you. They don't need luxury, and they need a solid home. And inevitably, things are going to fall apart, you know? And that's an awful place to be. And I've seen it dozens and dozens of times where the things of this world is what people care about more. And it bugs me. It hurts my heart. And of course, you know, there's reasons for that too, right? And why that comes up. Thanks, I appreciate it, Barkman. And there's reasons why that comes up. I think one of the reasons is because one of the two of the spouses are not willing to fight for the situation. They're not willing to fight for the relationship, or the one spouse is telling the other spouse something all the time, and they just won't listen. They won't change. They won't. One of the spouses wants to go to counseling, the other one won't. And there's just so many little nuances that cause this divide. And then all of a sudden, instead of it being us, not versus, but us in unison together, coaching and loving and guiding and caring for our children, it somehow becomes me versus my spouse to do those same things with my kids. And then it becomes a competition. I'm going to do it this way, you're going to do it this way. Or, you know, there's the, oh, well, you know, mommy or daddy, someone made a mistake. And, you know, let's face it, we all are in relationships, even at work, and, you know, throwing people under the bus never works. It's just a vindictive, nasty thing to do. So my suggestion is, you know, when you have those opportunities and situations, try to reverse engineer it. Where is this person maybe being hurt? Where were they hurt growing up as a child? What have they said to you over the years that really hurts them and bugs them? Are you trying in the relationship to do as they're asking of you? You know, if they're not doing the same of you, say, hey, if you do this, I'll do this. You know, create a bit of a barter system, even, right? Because last thing you want to do is have, you know, yourself caught up 6 months, a year, 5 years later, and you're both struggling to pay bills. You got these kiddos who are now feeling divided and split. And, you know, they're trying their best to make it through the day. They're putting on a brave face a lot of the time, and it's hurtful. And not to say that if you're in a situation like that you've done a bad job and you can't do an amazing job. I know plenty. There's actually one father I know who's in this pretty much exact same situation. He's doing a tremendous job with his kids. And I really admire how hard he's working and trying. And, you know, maybe I think he would have wished that he changed earlier, or he did some things differently. But on the flip side, if the person doesn't want to change, you can't really change them. So that's why I go back to the beginning. You know, at the beginning of the relationship, try to surround yourself with couples and people who are going to call you out, and if there's garbage or not. You know, and when you do that, you're setting yourself up. So now if you're this older couple, or this older friend, or this older person, now you got to do that for other people. You got to be that old stickler person, that person that no one wants to talk to or no one likes, because you're spitting facts. And when you do that, you know, you're being preventative. And I like to use the analogy that or the, not even the analogy, but just the fact that nobody knows how many seatbelts have saved lives. We just don't know. It's impossible. But it was a big enough initiative with like safety bags and all, airbags and all that stuff, to allow for this depth of safety to happen. You don't know how many times you step into the gap and you actually do something for people. You'll never know. You'll just never ever know how much of an impact that will be in their lives, whether you don't see them again or whether they're living blissfully because they actually listen to you, or because it's stuck in the back of their head and it was always there and it was always a guiding light for them. So, I would say, stand in the gap for people. If you see those types of relationships happening around you, or if you're in that type of relationship, step up to the plate. If you are in a relationship that is already married and you're worried about divorce and stuff like that, you don't have kids, not only get counseling, but talk to each other. Find out about each other's love languages. Do the things you did when you first started dating. And if you already have kids, don't pit them against each other. Don't pit, or don't you pit yourself. Because a lot of times too, it trickles into the kids, especially if it's like a boy-girl relationship, and it's like you act like your father, you act like your mother, and all that, jazz, and you make them choose sides. I think the number one thing you have to do in these situations is pump the brakes and remind yourselves why you, fell in love in the first place, become a united front, and deal with things together. When my daughters, will try to lie or something, they will try to lie at such a young age. They'll try to get what they can out of life. Which is amazing that they do that. I'm just pouring some hot water in to melt some of the last bit of grease. I wiped some of the grease off. They do that, and it's hilarious. But there is a moment that my wife and I have to have where it's like, we got to look at each other and we got to defend each other, because the one kid is saying, "Oh, Daddy said you could do this, and Mommy said you could do this," and even if it's a clear mistake on either of our parts, it's about saying, you know what, me and Mommy got to talk about this, or maybe I'm wrong, and defending your spouse's honor right from the get-go, even if they're wrong, or even if you don't agree. It's saying, Mommy and Daddy have to talk about this after, and allowing that unified force to stay the same. Because hey, let me tell you, when those kids hit 18, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, most likely they're gone. They're doing their own thing. And chances are, if you're still together, it's going to be just the two of you. Or if, things have, come your way and you've had to split, you're alone now. So it's always worth to take on the battle. It's always worth to fight the good fight. And even when it feels fruitless, even when it feels like this is not the thing I should be doing, this is not, it doesn't make me feel good to stand up for this person, it's worth it. It's worth it every single time. Because the kids are seeing how you're reacting. They see the kind of spouse that that you should be, or that they should be. And your spouse can't blame you for anything either, because they'll know that you're always supportive. And a lot of the times, it'll take weeks, months, years, or even decades for that realization to come to fruition. But I promise you, you hang in there, you hang tight, you take care of your character, God will take care of your reputation. Every single time that has been true. You take care of your character, and God will take care of your reputation. That is unequivocal. I can tell you that from personal experience, from other people's experiences. You do that. You can only do what you can do with right in front of you. So I can sum it all up into landing this plane for tonight, and then I'm open to talking about just about anything. It's, try your best to look out for people, or if you're in a relationship, about to go into a relationship, look out for people who can mentor you. If you move into that relationship in the long term and you feel like something's off, go and start getting yourself counseled up, read up, find that older mentor couple if you don't have one already. If you already, are in the dumps, then try to remind yourself and do the things you did when you first started dating. When you got kids, become a united front, because if you do end up lasting, a lot of people do end up getting divorced and the last kid leaves the nest. And it's a sad thing. So yeah, that's kind of thoughts I had for tonight. I really do love doing two things at once. Like that's, I think, when my mind really clicks well is when I'm doing something on autopilot, and that's kind of how I've been throughout the years. So I'm glad I stumbled on this idea. It's actually a night I couldn't sleep a couple nights ago, and I thought to myself, I don't have as much time anymore. I won't moving forward. So how can I maximize my time? And I love doing the dishes. I love doing the evening dishes, but it can get quote unquote physically boring. Usually I'll watch something or listen to something. I said, all these YouTube people always say stop consuming and start making. And I said, all right, I got this nice audio. Hopefully it's coming through nice still. I've been testing it for some time. It sounds pretty good. It sounds pretty authentic. The water's running. And I don't see too many people making videos while they're doing the dishes and talking about life and fatherhood. Mind you, those are some of the ultrasounds for the kiddos, which is kind of cool. And sponsor kid up there, and I like our little kitchen. It's a nice place, well lit. So yeah, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. And if any of you have any thoughts or questions or comments, I'd love to hear them. And if you like the content, please please share, please subscribe. I hope to do this 3 or 4 times a week. I do stretching usually in the morning, about 15 minutes, just dynamic stretching just to get the body moving. And I end up doing a workout 2-3 times a week as well. So looking forward to doing that. It keeps me super accountable to have eyeballs watching. It was one of the better video sets I've done, as a start off, was doing the stretching, and had some pretty good retention on it. So looking forward to doing that more often. And yeah, just love doing 2-for-1s. 2-for-1s. I probably should own a pizza franchise, do the 2-for-1, because I just love getting some work done and getting the chat in, even if it's with myself. I'm going to use the seatbelt thing. Yeah, do it up, man. There's a lot of amazing analogies. Prevention is boring. Prevention is boring. You just never know how many lives you can save by being super preventative. I'm done the dishes. So unless anyone else has a question or comment, Mr. Barkman, thank you so much for journeying with me so far. Yeah, I'm sick. My throat hurts. Yeah, loving it so far. I'll do my quick outro and then I'll chat for a sec. So if you want to see more of these types of videos with Dad doing his dishes, take a look at this playlist over here, or subscribe probably somewhere over here. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I'm Stephen Tocher. Have yourself a wonderful day, evening, morning, or night. God bless you.